Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of the Perform Happy podcast. I have a very exciting guest for you guys today. She was a member of the 2008 Olympic gymnastics team that won silver medal. She was the youngest member of the U.S. national team at age 12. She was also on the Pan American Games team that won gold, as well as the World Championship team that won gold. She had an incredible elite gymnastics career, all the while being able to go to traditional school, which is pretty amazing. And then after she graduated high school, she went on to a full ride scholarship to UCLA to join their legendary gymnastics team, where she won NCAA championships on beam her freshman and senior year, and she won all around at her last meet of her senior year, which is pretty amazing as well. She also won 17 All-American honors and was on the honor roll every quarter at UCLA. Welcome, everybody, to Samantha Peszek.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on. Basically, the main reason is because you are the perfect inspiration for most of the girls that I talk to. I mean, you've lived every little gymnast's dream, but it wasn't easy for you necessarily, from what I hear. So I'm excited to dig into that and get some tips and help inspire those athletes who maybe don't have the straightest path to their dream, but so you can help them understand that it's possible.
Sounds good. I'm excited.
So when did you first fall in love with gymnastics? When did you know it was your sport?
When I was 5, I started when I was 2 and, doing mommy and me classes. And when I was 5, I watched the 1996 Olympic Games on TV, and my mom was actually there working. And so my dad set up this camcorder, and I would just, watch the girls on the TV, Amanda Borden specifically, and I would memorize their floor routines and try and pretend like I was flipping, and just watching them compete. It looked like so much fun. They were smiling. They were getting to compete in front of a big crowd. And I remember after watching that, I told my family that I wanted to go to the Olympics one day. And so I was really lucky that I had very supportive parents. And even though I was 5, the constant message they told me was that I could do anything I set my mind to. And that was kind of when I decided that I was going to go to the Olympics one day.
Awesome. Now, your mom was also a collegiate gymnast,
Yep.
and she worked for USA Gymnastics.
Yep.
So
Yep.
was there pressure? Was it what were the drawbacks of having a mom that's so knowledgeable about gymnastics?
So it's funny because I didn't realize this until I got a little bit older, that people assumed my mom was putting a lot of pressure on me, because in our house it was totally not like that at all. My dad was also a collegiate athlete, so I think because they were both athletes, they were more hands off. I did soccer when I was younger. I also did dance. They didn't care if I went to the Olympics or not. They just wanted me to be involved in a sport and to have fun with what I was doing. And they really let me take ownership of my own sport, which I think really attributed to a lot of my success later down the line. But it is funny because a lot of people started asking me that the better I got of, oh, is your mom pushing you? Like, are you doing this for your mom? And it's funny because growing up, I just thought my mom had the coolest job of life. I couldn't wait to meet everybody on the national team. I asked her to put me in the magazine one time, and she was like, no, you gotta earn your place in the magazine. I can't just put my daughter in the magazine. And so I got to go to the office and really, be part of that and watch these girls, these icons that I thought kind of grow up in the sport. And one day I wanted to be like them and compete in front of big crowds. And so it was really special for me to get to watch these girls and to feel like I had a connection with them. So if there's any advantage, I think that was it, is having that constant inspiration. And I used to tell people at school that they were like my sisters because I wanted to be related to them. I wanted to get to know them. And my mom actually had them wish me a good luck at a couple meets that she couldn't be at because she was traveling internationally. And so things like that really just kind of kept me motivated when I was younger.
So you were already part of that family, and you just knew, this is where I belong. These are my people. I'm going.
Definitely.
Okay.
I didn't realize it was going to be hard.
You're like, no, I'm just going to the Olympics. That's what's going to happen. Yep. Okay. Now you had some setbacks, you had some injuries, you had some fears. What would you say was kind of the biggest obstacle to you reaching your dream?
I think the biggest obstacle for me was definitely my fears. I had to repeat level 4 and level 5 because I like wouldn't tumble backwards. I wouldn't do a round off back handspring on floor. And my coach is way more patient than I probably would ever be, but I'm so thankful and gracious that they were patient with me. They rearranged my floor routine, so instead of going diagonal, I would do a round off back handspring down the side of the white line. And so they were technically, like standing right there. A couple times I messed up my floor pattern and ended up on the wrong side, and then, balked a bunch of times and landed on my head and my mom told me yesterday that one of my first couple meets, I was getting like 4s on the events. And so I wasn't good. Like I wasn't a child prodigy gymnast at all. And it really hit hard when all my friends got to move up to the next level and I had to repeat the level. And that was crushing for me because at that point in time, yes, I did want to go to the Olympics, but I really went to the gym every day to hang out with my friends. So for me, the motivation to kind of get over my fear was to catch up and be with my friends because I wanted to play with them and hang out in the gym. So I would definitely say, fears were the biggest obstacle for me, not just when I was younger, but all the way through I made national team.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I love that about you. And I've used you as an example with a lot of clients I worked with. And you have to tell me if this is true. I don't know where I read it, but that you needed a warm-up spot to do bars pretty much all the way up and through elite competition. Is that true?
I always had my coach stand there on release moves, but not really like a fear thing. It was he just did that. I would say majority of my fears were on beam.
Okay. And that was somehow your best event and favorite event? Was it always your favorite?
Yeah. So no, definitely not. After I got over my round off back handspring on floor fear, then you kind of progress and things are great. And then I had to do series on beam. Back handsprings for some reason were the death of me. I couldn't figure out, they didn't make sense to me. I think looking back, I had so much power that I was nervous of my own power. And so I think if I had to really think back on why I was so afraid, it was because of that reason. But yeah, there was times I would go to sleep at night and I'd pray to God, dear God, I'll promise I'll only ask for one thing in my whole entire life. When I wake up in the morning, please let beam not be an event in gymnastics. And so every day I would go to the gym, being God loves me. He's going to take away this event from me. And apparently it doesn't work like that. And so every day beam would be there and I'd be, so sad to have to do my series and figure out how to get over it and how to work with my coaches. And so that was a really tough time for me because, again, all my teammates, no one else had fears except me. So I kind of felt like I was on an island and that no one in the world had fears except me. And so that's kind of a big reason of why I wanted to start Beam Queen Boot Camp too, is to let other kids know it's okay to have fears. It's normal to have fears. People that you look up to have fears. And, it's just about how you're going to decide to get over those fears and have that willpower in you.
Okay. And so how did you make peace with the series?
And that's the, $1 million question is everybody just wants to know how and what's the one thing you can say to get over your fears. And for me, it was definitely a long process, trial and error of what works. And I think everybody's a little bit different in terms of what works for them. For me, I first and foremost was very open with my coaches. I had a great, healthy relationship with my coaches, and they could sense how hard it was on me and how much I wanted to do it. And I just couldn't figure out how. And so they were great at working with me and, okay, we're going to do the assignments 3 on high beam. You're going to do 4 times that on the low beam. And then you're going to do 5 times that on the floor and just get those repetitions in and those numbers and build that muscle memory. So that's one thing that I did is kind of set goals with my coaches of, okay, if it's not going to happen this week, next Tuesday, we got to mentally prepare until next Tuesday, and then we're going to do it on high beam. And so goal setting was something that helped me. Visualizing was something that helps me, which is way harder than it sounds. And then the last thing is positive affirmations. So reminding myself, I can do this, replacing any of those negative thoughts with positive thoughts or neutral thoughts even. I went through this phase where I would only do a series if I said an ice cream flavor. before I went for my series. And I would do the series and then cross off that ice cream flavor. And then one of the coaches would give me a different ice cream flavor. And like, it was bananas. Like, I can't believe, and I was on the national team when I was doing that. And I was so embarrassed. No one ever knew that I had fears like this until actually I went to college, because I did a pretty good job of hiding it. But it was this constant obsession that I was nervous that on a big meet, I just wouldn't go. And I had no idea why. I wasn't afraid of getting hurt, really. Like, I didn't know why I was so afraid. And, you know, my coaches at meets, national championships, they wouldn't say, I hope she makes her routine. It was like, I hope she goes for her series. And so it was really a roller coaster. And I appreciate my coaches for working with me so much through that whole time.
Amazing. So yeah, for any coaches out there, that's good tips. Be patient, take it slow. And how did that play a part in you being such a confident beam worker?
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot too, because, you know, when I graduated, I wanted to give back to the sport that gave me so much. And I really was thinking, like, what can I do that I can, like, bring my unique experiences to help gymnasts in what I believe is the most difficult sport in the world. And kind of having that transition of hating beam to it being my favorite event, I was like, okay, I gotta, like, really self-reflect. What did I do in my life to really get to where I was? And there was a couple things. I did so many repetitions on the floor because I was scared. So I would, even when I was doing them on the high beam, I would get off and do a couple on the floor and then get back up and go. And so I think the amount of repetitions I did on the floor really built that muscle memory. And I was so tight on beam because I was so scared. And so that's kind of another component that I thought of. And two, I loved the challenge of beam, and I loved figuring out, you know, how to work it robotically almost, where I can get up, and instead of it being this nemesis, it was definitely an asset in my gymnastics career. And I got to the point where I would look forward.
Google password required.
I would look forward to go to beam at competitions because I knew that I was going to hit it. And that's the kind of edge that most of my competitors didn't have. Mm-hmm. So I think me going through that really tough time was what I needed to find my confidence on beam.
Amazing. Yeah. That looking at it like a gift. That I think so many gymnasts, especially, and figure skaters, they have this, like, I'm the head case. I was the head case when I was a gymnast. You were the head case. There's always one per gym, basically, and there's 3,500 gyms in the US, but that you always feel like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one. This is so horrible. But if you can look at it like, and because of this, I get to make 5 times the amount of them. And when I get up to compete, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. I think too, when you have fears, especially at a younger age, I mean, usually 2 things happen, right? I mean, you get over your fears, or you decide that you really can't and you quit and decide to do a different sport and whatever. But for the people that decide to have that willpower and figure out how to get over their fears, I mean, looking back, I'm so glad that I went through that, because it made me such a strong competitor in elite and in college. Like, that was my thing, is being that solid competitor. And I had to have such a strong mind to get over my fears. But building that strong mind also helped with competitions. It helped with other events. And so when I got to college, I was on a team with so many talented gymnasts, but there was a few girls on the team that really couldn't figure out how to compete, or they, you know, couldn't get over their fears in college. And so it really made me appreciate that time in my life that I did have all of those struggles, because I think if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't have been the gymnast that I was.
Awesome. So, so your first fear was the back handsprings on the floor, and then the series. Did you have any that popped up in, you know, upper level competition that, like, really got you still in college, or were you pretty much through it by that point?
I guess the way to explain it is, the first time I was afraid of a scale was around a back handspring, and it took me, like, I would say a year and a half to get over that fear. And, you know, working so hard to figure out why I was afraid, how to do it, how to get myself to do it. You know, that was a whole process of really learning myself and being self-aware. And then the second time I was afraid of a skill was a back handspring. But instead of it taking me a year and a half to get over my fear, it only took me 6 months maybe, you know? And so then the next skill I was afraid of, it took me half the time. And so it's not like when I got to college, I didn't have any fear, but instead of me being scared of a skill, it would be me being nervous of a skill. And instead of it taking me weeks or months, it would literally take me like take a big deep breath in, breathe out, and then go. And that's because I had to go through that work all throughout JO and through all those levels of finding out what worked for me and how to fix it in literally 1 second instead of it taking, days.
Yeah. I love it. It's like such the perfect example of that. Once you get through it, it gets easier and easier and easier and easier to get through it. And then you just can deal.
Yeah.
So you also had some injuries along the way. Did you ever have a moment where you were like, this is too much, I don't know if I can keep going?
More so, there was one day in my life, I was one of the weird gymnasts. I loved, through all the struggles, I never wanted to quit except one day. Couldn't do it, my back handspring layout on beam, and it was a team thing, and I let my teammates down in practice, and the world ended for me. And I was like, you know what? Like, I don't deserve to be a gymnast anymore. And I was like, felt so guilty that I couldn't do it. And I was like, I'm done. So in the middle of practice, I just told everybody, like, I'm done. This isn't for me anymore. Like, I'm not tough enough to be a gymnast. So I went in the locker room and I was bawling, and I was so sad that like I forced myself to be done because I didn't believe that I deserved to be a gymnast anymore, to wear that badge of honor. And 30 seconds later, my teammates come in and they're like, Sam, you're not quitting. We're not mad that we lost the game that we were playing in practice. Like, you're going to get through this. They gave me a pep talk, and like 30 seconds later, I unquit.
So it was the team that ultimately kept you going.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, to the teammates of the kid with the fear, what can you give them? What do you do to help your teammate who's struggling? What's the best thing you can do?
I would just say like that, be that positive affirmation, or just ask like, can I help you? Or is there anything I can do to help? And sometimes like, for me, like getting an ice cream flavor, like some of my teammates would be like, okay, let's do this one, and so they would help me do it. And obviously, kind of talk me through it and help bring that self-awareness to the girl that has the fear, because they're probably trying to figure it out themselves. And for you asking questions and just being that helpful friend and teammate, it really would mean a lot to them just to show that you care, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Now a question about balance. The fact that you were able to do traditional high school, meanwhile training elite, was there any balance? Did you have any moments of like being a normal kid? How did you maintain that and keep your
Yeah. Like looking back, I really do feel like I got the best of both worlds. I went to real school since I was in first grade. And so obviously when you're in first grade, it's not like you're this, again, like I wasn't this prodigy gymnast. So all the kids that I started off school with, we were just, first graders together. And so they actually were the same kids that kind of were all the way through high school. A lot of them were all the way through high school with me, went to a smaller school. And so having them know me of like before I was this really like elite gymnast to, really getting to know me versus me being in the paper all the time and me having to miss school to like compete for USA when I was 12 and, kind of seeing this like dual life of me, like they thought it was cool and stuff, but they didn't treat me differently. I got to go to birthday party. I mean, there's a lot that I did miss, obviously, like birthday parties, but I would try to go to as many as I could. I went to one prom. I missed one prom, and that was like crushing to me. Football is my favorite sport. So when I got the year before the Olympics, I talked to my coach and I asked him if Friday could be my easy day so I could finish practice and like go meet my friends at the football game. So he was really great at working with me and letting me do as much as possible, because looking back, I mean, I think everyone's different, but I really needed the outlet of school to be able to function in the gym. I think it would have been too much for me if I homeschooled. And I know people that feel the opposite way. So I think it's whatever works for you. But for me in particular, I mean, I missed the first month of my sophomore year of high school. So that summer I had to work with a tutor to do all of the homework that I missed. My school was really strict academically, and they let me, miss school, but only on the pretense that I was getting A's and that I was doing really well in high school. And the only thing my parents really cared about was my academics. And that they made that very clear from when I was little. And so I didn't like that at the time. And looking back, I'm so appreciative that that was kind of what their main focus was. They obviously wanted me to be happy and healthy, and they wanted me to do well in gym because I wanted to do well in gym. But the thing that they cared about the most was school.
Great. And that showed in your college, your honor roll, and the fact that you're able to do not just elite training, not just collegiate gymnastics, but also be a really strong academic participant. That's all. You're such an inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
So as an Olympian, you get this platform, you're gifted this platform that you can inspire young athletes. What's your favorite way to do that these days?
Definitely Beam Queen Boot Camp. I've done summer camps, coaching summer camps since I've been 10. Obviously, taking the collegiate route means you can't have an agent and you can't make money. So the only way that I was able to make money was coaching camps in the summer. And so for 9 years, I coached other people's camps in the summer, and I loved it. I loved traveling all over and getting to meet the up and coming gymnasts. Most of the time I was on beam. But it was starting to wear on me, and I was thinking about why, and it was really because I didn't feel like I was helping them as much as I felt like I could. And that was because I didn't have enough time on beam to really break down the basics, talk about the mental side of beam. Like, there was so much of beam that I felt like people were missing, and coaches don't have time in a normal practice to sit everybody down and talk about X, Y, and Z and really make that a priority. Like, coaches just don't have that time. And so that's kind of what got me started about Beam Queen Boot Camp and what I can possibly bring them, and adding confidence training and just sharing our beam stories with the girls up and coming, because I know once I got good on beam, that's what really gave me the edge in all the other events. And so really going there and hearing these girls' stories about their fears, and they always fall in competition, or, you know, just all the struggles that I went through. I mean, I'm laughing now. It's not funny because I remember how, like, the world was ending and how horrible it was. But looking back and putting myself in their shoes, it's so fulfilling to be able to tell them, like, you know what, this is a horrible time, and I remember being in your shoes, but once you get through it, you're going to look back and appreciate this time and be thankful that you were able to persevere and, like, do that hard work to get through it. And so being able to share that message with them, and then having them, you know, engage with us on social media after the event and reminding us, like, this really helped me, I got over my fear, and kind of just seeing the end result is really special and very fulfilling for me.
How cool. Yeah, you must just get floods of videos of
It's
competitions.
awesome. It's awesome. Like, and I am bad with names, but I'm great with faces and obviously with gymnastics. So if a girl sends me a video, I remember exactly who it is. I'll send it to the staff, and we all are in, like, a group chat of, like, really, like, rooting this girl on, even though we only got to work with her for 2 days. It really is a cool community that we've been working hard to build, because I remember how hard it is to be a gymnast and to go through all this stuff, and to feel like your coaches are mad at you, and to be mad at yourself. And there was so much that I wish I could have appreciated during that time, that I'm hoping to relay the message so it's not as horrible for the girls growing up.
Yes. Well, and I find that just talking, like, your story is the story of every 12-year-old level 7 who's afraid of going backwards. It's like that story. It's the same exact thing that they hear. So just being able to hear you say, yeah, I felt like the only one. Yeah, it was really hard. I didn't, but you never gave up. And that's just, I mean, there's the desire factor that underlies it all too. And the community that you just keep going. So so now today, are you still active athletically? What do you do to keep that part of you? I mean, as an athlete, you kind of always have to have that going, right?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of physically, I definitely work out a good amount still. Nothing wild. I'm not a CrossFitter. I'm just like a normal worker outer now. And then in terms of, like, working my mind, I definitely feel like Beam Queen Boot Camp, again, the company that I started has kept me so busy and working, and, like, those life lessons that I learned in gymnastics and on beam, I was just telling this story to someone else, are everything that I kind of need to remind myself as a young female entrepreneur. When I first started Beam Queen Boot Camp, I didn't know anything. And so I had to teach everything myself, learn everything. And there would be days I was so frustrated, and I was down on myself, and, you know, that negative self-talk would creep in, like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not old enough, I'm not experienced enough to be able to handle this role. What am I thinking? And then I would have to take a deep breath and literally give myself the exact same message that I give the girls at Being Queen Boot Camp about reminding myself to have confidence and no, I can do this, and I can do this because of X, Y, and Z. And so it's kind of funny that everything comes full circle of all the life lessons that I learned in the sport of gymnastics are coming back, and it's like, it's hitting me like a freight train, you know, and I have to stop myself and laugh sometimes because I'm like, wow, you would think, like, a lot of people tell me like, oh, an Olympic gymnast always has confidence, or an Olympic gymnast can do anything. And it's like, well, yeah, but we also are human, and we still go through those negative days or those insecurities or whatever it is to, you know, humanize us that everybody else goes through. And so just kind of reminding myself that on a daily basis has been an interesting journey too.
Oh, isn't that amazing? And then as you teach it, it gets really reinforced.
Yeah.
That's what I noticed. And that's a lot of the girls who get through fear. I'm like, okay, which kid are you going to help? Who are you going to share this with? Who are you going to, you know, okay, your friend on the team is having trouble. Yes, go get her. Go help her. Go, like, let her be your project. That you're like, we're in this together, because that's when it really gets reinforced.
Yeah.
That we can learn something and get through the fear. And then it's like, oh, fear. Oh my gosh, what do I do? But then you go, oh, okay, I know this stuff. I totally know this stuff. Yeah. And I noticed in childbirth, I used all the things from gymnastics. It's like crazy how any tough situation you're ever in, your gymnastics experience and being able to push through fear will carry you through. So what are the other big life lessons that you feel like are carrying you today from sports?
One of the things I know I mentioned at the top of the podcast that my parents always taught me when I was little is I can do anything I set my mind to. And when you're a little kid, you don't have a fear of failure. So I remember when they told me that, it was really cool. I'm like, whoa, my parents said I could do whatever I want to. I just have to, like, believe in myself. And to me, it seems so simple. I'm like, why doesn't everybody just believe in themselves and do what they want to do? I remember thinking that as a little kid. And so when I made that goal of going to the Olympics, I had no idea how hard it was going to be. I had no idea the challenges that were going to come, but I just made that goal, like, no matter what, I was going to go to the Olympics. And so that sort of immaturity and that youthfulness of kids is something that I want to continue to have as an adult, because I think a lot of adults don't pursue their own dreams and goals because, you know, the negative self-talk or those insecurities, or they can see the obstacles before they even make the goal. And so it's harder to make that decision and to say you're going to do something because you already know how hard it's going to be, instead of making the goal and no matter what happens, you following through the goal. And so I know with Being Queen Boot Camp, I was young and I wanted to go to business school. And so this seemed like a fun project to me. I had no idea how hard it was going to be. And on the hard days, I remember not knowing if I was going to be able to do it and if I wanted to even do this. And it was that message that came back to me, like, you can do anything you set your mind to. And it reminded me, like, okay, I set my mind to going to the Olympics. That was not easy. Went to the Olympics. Like, I can do this, you know, I can do anything. And same thing with gymnasts coming up. Like, you know, I'm sure there's a skill that they were once too afraid to do and then they did it. And so having that little chip on your shoulder, or that memory of like, okay, if I'm scared of another skill, well, I got over that fear, so I can get over this fear. And so really making everything a really easy, like, A plus B equals C situation kind of always helps me rationalize with myself when I'm kind of crazy or out of control or having an emotional day. Like, I think that's something that everyone goes through, no matter if they're an athlete or just in the gym or in business. Like, you have those thoughts that are just crazy, but you start believing them instead of just taking a big deep breath and thinking about, like, okay, does A plus B equal C here? Because if it doesn't, then, like, I'm just having an emotional day. And so that's kind of helped me too, of like, okay, whatever, I'm off the ledge, just reel it in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a good one. Just, where are your feet? When I get all spun out about, oh my gosh, the sky is falling.
Right.
One little bit of bad news and I'm like, it's all ruined. And then I go, whoa, where are my feet? Okay, they're under my body. I have a roof over my head. Everything's really, really okay.
I love hearing everybody. I think everyone has a little different thing of like when things are spinning out of control, like what's your go-to? Hopefully everybody has something. But I love hearing everybody's because I'm like, yes, that's equivalent to mine.
Yeah. Well, my husband, when I met him, his was everything's messed up. I knew this would happen. He was like the yin to my yang. I was like, it's going to be great. It's fine. Let's try it. And he was like, it's going to get messed up. I knew it. And over time, he's come around. And now he's the one who's like, anytime I get worried, he's like, oh yeah, you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. Okay. Just like all the other stuff you do. I'm like, yeah, okay. All right. You're right.
That's so funny.
That he's and that's what we do is we have these families, these teams, these coaches that know us better than we know ourselves.
Right.
And so it sounds like you had just the most amazing coach. And what would you recommend to a coach who is struggling with fear or who has an athlete who's struggling with fear? What did your coaches do right that you'd recommend that they do too?
My coaches always made me feel like we were on the same team. And so I guess I'm not sure what came first, the chicken or the egg, but I felt like I was always a respectful, scared gymnast. Whereas like you can either be like really respectful or get really crabby and cranky to everybody around you. And I think when I saw girls in my gym take that route, no one wants to help you. You know, like you've already decided you're not going to do it. You don't want help. You kind of shut the door and you're shut down completely. I know I always took the other approach, not consciously, I just was so upset with myself. And I think my coaches saw that. I was always really upfront with my coaches. I'm really afraid of this today. I don't know why. Please help me. What can I do? Can I have an alternate assignment? Can I do double the next day? Like, what can I do to do the assignment the way I can do it today? And so they were always really great about individualizing my assignments, where I was probably doing more work than the other girls, but it A, kept my muscle memory going, and B, got me to do series the way I could do them to start building that confidence. And so I remember I would go from, the low beam to the low beam with mats to the floor and then back, and I would have to do this circuit. And then, eventually you kind of just get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you're like, oh, I'm tired of doing 300 series. I just want to do 3 like everybody else on the high beam. So I think that there's different things that work for everybody, but I know my coaches got really creative with me, and just them showing how much they cared and how creative they would be like, okay, let's try this. And I would always be so thankful, and we would celebrate together, and they would hurt for me when I had a bad day. But yeah, having them feel like we're on the same team and we're working together and we're setting these goals together, made me feel like I could do this. One coach got really frustrated with me, and I was the type of gymnast that didn't do well if people were negative to me. So I think my coach that took me to the Olympics really learned that early on, that I needed like the pep talk, that you can do it, not the you're doing it wrong, that's not right. Like I needed the positive reinforcement. And so for them learning that early on and being that for me, I think really helped me in my career. Otherwise, I probably would have quit the sport because I shut down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's such a good perspective to give, that it's not all coaches get a bad rap, that they're these mean, domineering, they don't let anybody. But then again, if you're silent in a corner in tears and you don't speak and they don't know what's going on, they get frustrated. So if you're in tears, but going to them and saying, I want to do this, what can I do? Help.
Totally. And that's kind of what I always share with the girls too. I'm like, guys, it's not your coach's fault that you're afraid of things. You're not trying to be afraid of things either, which I get that, but also they're frustrated because they're on your team. They want you to do this because they care just as much about your dreams as you do. And so if you are the mature gymnast and going to them either before practice or whenever it is, and really respectfully try and have a conversation of like, listen, like this is what I'm going through today. Like, please help me. You think that they're gonna be upset because you're upset, but they're not going to be upset at how you handled it. Mm-hmm. And so I think, controlling those reactions to the fears is just as important as going through the fears, because that's how you're going to get coaches and teammates to want to help you, instead of being frustrated and angry that you're taking time from the other gymnasts that are doing their skills. And so I do think that there's a way for a gymnast to handle it also.
Yeah. Yeah. Such good advice. Because if you're busy blaming the coach and the coach doesn't even, and all they see is that she's not doing anything. Why is she here? Why is she being lazy?
Right. Totally.
And mom's like, why are you so miserable? Why don't you quit? And meanwhile, the athlete's just like, I just want to do my skills. I just do my skills. And I feel like everyone's against me, but yet what you're saying gives them power. It's not just.
Yeah, I think that no matter if you're scared of a skill and you can't do it, I mean, you should be doing something else. You should do 4 times the amount anywhere you can do them, because otherwise you are lazy. You know, I mean, if you're not, I mean, gymnastics, I think that's where a lot of gymnasts get in trouble, is they just wait for the coaches to tell them what to do, which, yes, the coach gives you the assignment, you do that. But if they're, busy, or if they're whatever, and the option is you standing there or you doing more on the floor where you could do them, then get working, like do what you can do, exhaust all of your options. And then the coach is going to notice how hard you're working and how bad you want to do it. And I guarantee you, they're going to want to help you more than if you're just standing there crossing your arms.
Yes. Yep. Then you're setting little goals and you're reaching them, and then your confidence is building and your brain is chilling out around the skill, and it all is working together, and the coach sees the effort and the teammates see your heart, and it all just builds from there. So good. Well, so I always like to wrap up with top tips to perform happy, because my theory is if you're miserable, then what's the point? It's so many years of your life. Why be miserable? So what did you do, or what do you recommend people do just to keep the happiness going in a sport that's difficult?
That's good. Yeah. It's a monotonous sport. There's not a lot of fun at training always. You condition a lot. Like, thinking about it, it's like, wow, you spend so many hours in the gym. For me, there was a lot of days. I said I only wanted to quit once, but there was so many days where I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? My body hurts. I'm scared of these skills. I surpass my friends at this point. I'm not even training with my friends, which is what I love to do. Like, why am I doing this? And so I would literally have to take a second and ask myself, why am I doing this? And the answer was always because my goals, and at the time it was going to the Olympics. And for anybody else, it's like, oh, you want to get to the next level, or you want to get a college scholarship, or I don't know why you do gymnastics. That's a you thing. But like, for me, it was always my goals. So reminding myself, I'm killing myself each day to work my butt off to accomplish my dream of going to the Olympics. Then that moment of like that hard moment I was dealing with in the gym, it was like, okay, my option is to continue practice and give my 100% until I try and reach this goal. Or my other option is to quit, and I'll never know if I was going to reach my goal or not. I'll always have that regret. And so giving myself the why was like a splash of cold water on my face. And it kind of like reignited me of being like, okay, this isn't super fun right now, but if I get through this, it's going to be easier and I'm going to be a little bit closer to my goal. And that thought was really fun and exciting for me.
And then you get that moment when you're standing there looking at the American flags and feeling like, okay, it's all worth it. And was it worth it for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember walking into the '08 arena for the first time, and I watched the Magnificent Seven DVD or VHS tape over and over, and I saw them walking into the Georgia Dome, and everyone was chanting USA, and it was like I had all these flashbacks from that moment when I walked into the arena, because I was finally one of those girls that I always wanted to be, and I was walking and competing for my country, and it was like all of those hard times in my sport that really no one knows except you and the coach and your parents probably. It was like all of that kind of came full circle, and it was like, wow, thank goodness that I continued down this road and that I pushed myself and gave 100%, because I have no regrets and my dream came true.
Amazing. My heart is like pounding with the excitement of that moment. So everybody out there, just take a little bit of Sam's success with you. This is so it's possible. Okay. Now, if somebody wants to check out Beam Queen Bootcamp, where do they go?
You can go to our website, beamqueenbootcamp.com. And actually, right before this, we just announced that we added one more location in California. So it's going to be in LA. It's already, I think we launched it an hour or 2 hours ago, and it's close to being full. So if you're still wanting to come, 5 locations are completely sold out, but I think that there's a couple locations still available. So you can check out the events page or any of our social media at Beam Queen Bootcamp and check out all the fun.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Samantha Peszek. I am inspired by you. I know that there are so many gymnasts who are going to be inspired by just hearing you talk. Thank you so much for your time, and thank
You're
you
welcome.
for everything you do to take care of these girls who want to get up there and rock beam like you did.
I love it. I love it. Good luck to all you guys listening. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you.